Good morning to those who are in South Korea, and good evening to those who are in Brazil. Welcome to our 10th edition of Brazil-Korea Entrepreneurship Lecture Series. I am Jung Ko, and I am founding partner of Goldona Consulting and founder of the Brazil-Korea Entrepreneurship Lecture Series. Goldona Consulting is a financial advisory in mergers and acquisitions based in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And through our network and team of experts in and out of Brazil, we support the entrepreneurs and investors to thrive through their business. We have been serving our clients since 2016 and will complete 7 years next year. In parallel, as an immigrant in Brazil, being originally from South Korea, I was given the opportunity to create a very exciting initiative to support entrepreneurs interested in developing the relations between Brazil and South Korea through a series of lectures by the experts in diverse areas, which operated under the name of Brazil-Korea Entrepreneurship Lecture Series. Since its foundation in 2016, we hosted 9 editions of the lecture series. Before the COVID, we used to host in-person private events with around 50-60 people to share the expertise and experience among the speakers and attendants. Then we had the COVID, and even during that challenging period, we did not stop the project and kept doing our lecture series when finally we also brought as guest speakers based in different countries such as South Korea and United States. Due to that experience we accumulated, we are today hosting in real time the 10th edition with distinguished speakers and participants from South Korea, Brazil, and United States, where many overseas Koreans and Brazilians reside. Therefore, I am deeply honored to welcome our guests to our online event and invite each one of you to make the best use of the 4-day event with the 6 panels on various subjects such as tax, cross-tech, entertainment, media, water and sanitation, energy, and cross-border venture capital opportunities, as well as investment and working visa modalities. We will also have the showcase of Brazilian startup and the testimony of the participants and speakers in the past editions. I would like to express my words of gratitude to those who supported us to bring this 10th edition to the reality, including our co-organizer Korea International Trade Association, BR Visa, Bongjia News, 좋은 아침, Korea Foreigner Assist Center, Brazilian Institute for Development of International Business Relations, and many other institutions of great prestige serving the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Brazil and South Korea. Now, I would like to welcome 2 guests who will give us the opening remarks. First, I would like to invite Marta Mitico, founder and partner of BR Visa. Marta.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good evening. It's an immense honor to be our Visa, our immigration consultant, to sponsor this Brazil-Korea lecture series since the 5th edition. You are the 10th edition. There can be no better proof that Brazil-Korea lecture cycle is maintained with consistency and constant innovative content and qualified presence. I must congratulate our ambassador Jung Ko, always ready, bringing innovative issues ranging from the challenges of energy metrics to the ever important and decisive updated tax issues. Thank you, Sue, for being our bilateral ambassador, the most Brazilian Korean and the most Korean Brazilian, promoting business, Brazilian coffee, the culture, and both country and allowing this rich networking. Have an excellent lecture series. Good luck for everybody.
Thank you very much, Marta. Now, I would like to invite Hyunsik Son, CEO of Korea Foreigner Assistance Center.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mr. Song from KFAC, Korea Foreign Assistance Center. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here today at this important international conference held to commemorate the 10th edition Brazil-Korea Entrepreneurship Lecture Series. This wonderful occasion has presented us with a real chance to bring together a whole array of eminent people and most promising CEOs both in Korea and in Brazil. I have full confidence that this entrepreneurship lecture series will prove to be an excellent opportunity for us to benefit from both the intellectual insights and practical wisdom of numerous experts. Their collective wisdom will serve as an invaluable guiding light as we seek to forge an even better path for Korea and Brazil's future. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to KITA, Korea International Trade Association, and Ms. Go-Soo Jung, a founding partner of Golden Hawk Consulting and founder of Brazil-Korea Entrepreneurship Lecture Series. With their hard work and meticulous arrangement, this event has been made possible. This achievement of the lecture series is tremendous. It's already the 10th event. Can you believe it? Even in a COVID-19 season. Ms. Go and her colleagues dedicated to promote Brazil-Korea entrepreneurship HIP lecture series through diverse activities such as seminars, policy forums, and international conferences. Especially the lecture series have played an important role in promoting Brazil to Korea and Korea to Brazil. As you can see from this program, it is prepared with substantial and fruitful lectures in fields that are really essential for businesses. I'm sure that just by attending this 10th lecture series, you will be able to acquire knowledge about all aspects of starting a business in Brazil and Korea. And I'm the CEO of KFAC, Korea Foreigners Center. If you plan to live or do business in Korea, you need so much information, and you have so many questions, but you are not sure who to ask. For example, you need to find somewhere to live, open a bank account, set up your internet connection. In Korea, we have foreigners or foreign companies with all problems that may arise and have been playing a role in solving problems directly from A to Z. In addition to solving these problems, we have been providing various high-quality programs such as lectures, parties, cultural experience or networking events, travel opportunities, so that foreigners in Korea can live harmoniously as global citizens without discrimination. And as a bridge between Korea and the global market, we also carry out various other projects and businesses. If you are interested in Korean market, want to work or do business in Korea, please feel free to contact KFAC at any time. From the moment you decide to move Korea until you've settled in Korea, KFAC can help you feel at home and your life will be smarter. Lastly, I would like to end today's congratulatory speech by giving you 2 tips that can be helpful when you meet Korean for the first time or do business in Korea. I will share the document. Oh, I'm sorry, but the system has got some problems right now. So can you hear me? If you can hear me, then please say yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, actually, I want to share the document, but there's some problems, so I will just do with my voice. Please understand this. Okay. Anyway, so when Korean meet a person, we usually bow to their seniors or person with a higher rank as a sign of respect and greetings. The junior person will always initiate the bow like this. And as a younger person or a person with a low rank shakes using both hands, or they can place their hand across the belly or fold it at the forearm like this. Okay. And we have naming conventions Okay, it means we should use family or given names properly. During initial meetings, it's best that you can use a Korean family name to your business partner directly, or when speaking about them, or when talking to another Korean. However, when you get to good terms with your counterpart, you can use their given name. For example, my Korean name is Hyunsik Son, so my family name is Mr. Son, and my given name is Hyunsik. Here, both of you met me for the first time, so you can call me Mr. Son. And as time goes by, when you are familiar to me, you can call me Hyunsik C or Hyunsik Bro. These two pictures can, oh, yeah, okay. You couldn't see the pictures. I'm sorry. Anyway. Now, to wrap up today's congratulatory speech, I will support your successful business in Korea and Brazil. This is my contact information. Well, I will give it to you. I'll give it to you to the email address, your email address. So, okay, thanks for your cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Son. So without further ado, I would like to close our opening and start our lecture series. We have prepared 6 panels, and during 4 days, we'll go through the panels. Each panel will have a topic of relevance in our business. And the moderator responsible for the respective panel will give the speakers and the audience throughout the will guide the speakers and the audience throughout the panel. In order to optimize our time and resources, we have chosen the format of the panel where the speakers will have the time to do their presentation and the moderator will address the questions. In this sense, I would like to welcome Orlando Dalcin, PwC Tax Partner, to start our panel 1. After the panel 1, and before we close the day 1, we will also have the special remarks from the representative of our co-organizer, Kita, about the entrepreneurship ecosystem in South Korea and the role of the Korea International Trade Association. So we are closing the opening. Thank you very much, Marta, Mr. Son, and Orlando. The floor is yours, and enjoy our panel. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you, the organization of this event. I'm thrilled to be once more as part of the cycle of lectures, Brazil, Korea for entrepreneurships. And it's always a great experience to be with you, especially now that we have experience considering an international guests, international presentation. I'm very honored to be in charge of this tax panel, and taxation in Brazil is quite a peculiar subject. But before talking a little about that, I'd like to give my special thanks to Daniella Galvão and Adler Martinez that will present the panels on the top following topics. And to all of you that join us today to hear and discuss about the tax issues in Brazil nowadays. And as Sue just mentioned, please feel free to send us the questions, and I will share with the panelists and the speakers. So without further ado, as you may heard, Brazil taxes in Brazil, they are quite complex, and they are burdensome to the entrepreneurs. The current research on the most friendly environments to do business, there has no good results to Brazil, unfortunately. There is a special survey that the World Bank does on an annual basis, and it used to hold this research up to 2020. And on this research, it calculated how long a medium-sized company would take to register and submit their taxes, usually in each country. And among those more than 150 countries, Brazil was in the last position for all of the years of the research, being considered the most complex environment to not only calculate the taxes, but also to report. And it's quite interesting that if in one hand we have such a complex system, on the other hand, we are a quite digitized environment. Brazil is early adopter of the electronic invoices and electronic ancillary obligations. So this is one subject that tax authorities in Brazil, they are top of the class. So Brazil tax authorities, they are in touch with tax authorities all along the world to share experience, because since 2009 we start a growing experience in a digitalized environment. Another interesting characteristic of our system is that due to this complexity, we have a relevant amount of tax controversy. Nowadays, there is estimation that there are more than 4 trillion Brazilian reais under discussion on courts regarding tax credits. That's why we always have tax reforms on the agenda. Now we are on a presidential election year, and all candidates have their tax reforms proposals. So that's why we have currently some uncertainty on the following years regarding the taxes. But there's not only bad news. It's important to say that for at least the last 10 years, we have improved much of the system. So we haven't had any larger reform, but several controversies were settled between the taxpayers and the tax authorities because of Supreme Court rulings or changes on legislation. And there are potential routes to improve this complexity and burden to the taxpayer. So the country is improving on this side as well. Going further, it's the goal here is to share how things are nowadays on the most relevant and updated topics. That's why we will have first a panel with Daniella to talk about taxation of new technologies and businesses. So we have on one hand all the complexity of new digital business like NFT and crypto, and how business will deal with that. So we have a complex environment combined with a complex new technologies and businesses. And on the other topic of the night, we will have Adler Martinez talking about ESG and taxes in Brazil. So this is a very relevant topic especially on the 2030 agenda. So ESG in Brazil is nowadays a hot topic, but still there's much room for discuss. And now I would like to invite Daniella to do her presentation on the taxation of new businesses and technologies here in Brazil.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Orlando. Initially, I would like to thank Sue, founder of Golden Hop, who organized this event, and Orlando for inviting me to join this panel. I will share with you my presentation. Just 1 minute. Okay. And well, my name is Daniella Galvão. I am a partner of CQS-FV law firm and the one responsible for the tax department. Today, I'm here to address a very innovative topic, which is taxation of new technologies and businesses, and to address what the discussions and tax treatment given to cryptocurrencies and other digital assets, such as tokens, are. I will divide my presentation into 3 parts. First, we'll look at the global context and see the position of some countries. Secondly, I will discuss how Brazil has been positioning itself regarding cryptocurrencies and digital assets. And finally, I'm going to present the challenges related to taxation and new technologies and some possibilities for dealing with these issues. Regarding the global context, is it worth mentioning that in November last year, a report was updated by the Library of Congress in the US. Initially made in 2018, it dealt with the regulation of cryptocurrencies around the world. In this new report, there is the appointment of 9 jurisdictions that have absolutely banned the use of cryptocurrency. In addition to the 9 jurisdictions, the report mentions 42 jurisdictions that prohibit banks and other financial institutions from dealing with cryptocurrencies or offering service to persons or companies that involve cryptocurrencies. In turn, there are about 103 countries where the use of cryptocurrencies is allowed, and which contain tax, anti-money laundering, and counter-financing of terrorism law for cryptocurrencies. Finally, about 2/3 of the countries mapped already have rules. However, the legal treatment given to cryptocurrencies and crypto assets differs greatly. Just to illustrate the issue of diversity of concepts adopted, Germany considers cryptocurrencies a financial instrument. The Arab Emirates consider them commodities. South Africa and Israel consider them assets of an intangible nature. In the US, the IRS classified cryptocurrencies as property. And let's take a look at some of the most commonly adopted general concepts. In the European Union, although there is no consensus, there is a tendency to classify cryptocurrencies as financial assets. The definition published by the EU Parliament considers cryptocurrencies as a digital representative of value that, 1, is intended to constitute a peer-to-peer alternative to government-issued legal tendency. 2, is used as a general-purpose medium of exchange. 3, is secured by a mechanism known as cryptography. And 4, can be converted into legal tendency and vice versa. Moving on to the concept of crypto asset, how they are different for cryptocurrency. A cryptocurrency, also known as a cryptographic currency, is a digital currency that, like traditional fiat, serves as a storage of value, a medium of exchange, and a means of payment for goods and services. A cryptocurrency is nothing more than a form of money. However, when a cryptocurrency's services begin to include features such as smart contracts, payment gateways, content monetization, and so on, it has combined the function of a crypto asset. Crypto assets are similar to cryptocurrencies in that they function as a storage of value and a medium of exchange, but they also have a layer of functionality. Crypto assets operate on technology or network that allows for the execution of functions as well as the creation of smart contracts. In the classification of crypto assets, studies point to three major categories: payment, utility, and security tokens. In addition to this classification, it's also possible, for example, to find the following classification: as token, that corresponds to an underlying physical asset, equity tokens, royal sharing tokens. Well, to complete this first block, there are different concepts related to virtual currencies and virtual assets. Apparently, the concepts and classifications presented are also far from reaching all possibilities of virtual assets, as they are tokens that fall into two or more categories. In practice, this means that the lack of a consensus of these assets results in different legal treatment. In terms of taxation, the different classification of assets implies a difference in tax treatment. Well, now that we know the global context, we will analyze what Brazil's positioning is. As pointed out in the report prepared by the Library of Congress, Brazil has a specific tax rule on crypto assets, which establish reporting obligations, namely Normative Instruction number 1888 from 2019, as well as some bills of law. The Bill of Law number 2234 incorporates regulations about crypto assets to law number 9613 regarding money laundering, and it increases criminal punishment for such crimes conducted through cryptocurrency. In addition to the aforementioned proposal, Bill 4401 from 2021 is in progress in the Senate. The proposal includes virtual currencies in the definition of payment arrangements, brings guidelines for the provision of virtual asset service, and regulates the operation of companies providing this service. According to the text approved in Bill 4401, a virtual asset is the digital representation of a value that can be negotiated or transferred by electronic means and used to make payments or for investment purpose. That is, the proposal underway in the Senate presents a more limited concept than the previously mentioned crypto asset classifications. The proposed concept of virtual asset does not include utility tokens, for example. In any case, the proposal still needs to go through the Senate plenary and proceed to the President's sanction. Thus, we will analyze Normative Instruction 1888, which is the normative text that has effectively regulated the Brazilian market. The normative instruction presents the following concepts: cryptoactive, the digital representation of value denominated in its own unit of account, which can be used as a form of investment, instrument of value, transferring or access to service, and which does not constitute legal currency. Cryptoactive are not regulated by our central bank because of that. Cryptoactive Exchange Office is the legal entity, even if not financial, that offers services related to operations carried out with cryptoactive. According to this normative instruction, the people who must provide the information are the crypto active exchange platform that is established in Brazil, and the individual or legal entity residing in Brazil when the operations are carried out abroad or the operations are not carried out using an exchange office. The information that must be provided are purchase and sales, exchange, donations, and so on. The information must be provided whenever the monthly value of the operations exceeds 30,000 reais, or approximately 6,000 American dollars. And when this information be provided monthly until the last day of the month. The penalty in any case of non-compliance is a fine. And this normative instruction is the formal rule in our tax systems that we have about cryptocurrencies and digital assets. The normative instructions builds the way that the Federal Revenue Service uses to map these transactions and charge tax from whoever earns money from these transactions. And who earns money from these? First, they are the investors, people or entities that earn capital gains from purchase and sale. For this group, transactions with crypto assets are taxable as capital gains. The second group has people or entities that work with intermediation, trading, or custody, and receives a percentage of the operations. In this case, they are already taxed, in short, on their revenues for service rendered. As mentioned before, such service providers should be included in specific legislation to be approved in the future. In Brazil, to calculate the tax over capital gains, where the taxpayer is an individual, the tax rate ranges from 15 to 22.5%, depending on profits. Here we have the tax rates and bands. Until 5 million of capital gain, the tax rate will be 15%. From 9 million to 10 million, the tax rate will be 17.5%, and so on. It's worth clarifying that the Federal Revenue Service already provides for a specific code for crypto assets to be declared in the goods and rights sheet in the income tax declaration. Although there are rules that indicate the mandatory information on crypto assets and how the income tax should be paid in case of capital gain, there are a number of questions that remain unanswered. There are, for example, no applicable rules for those who work with cryptocurrency mine or for those who issue and create non-fungible tokens. Another point that remains unanswered is related to the payment of benefits in crypto assets. Well, we have here a lot of questions without any answer. So let's deal with this question. What are the necessary steps for these operations using virtual assets to be included in the tax system? In a ideal world, the tax authorities, as well as the regulatory authorities, not only fiscal, but also financial, should meet to define general rules and a global treatment, because as already shown, there are different understandings about the concepts. Until we reach this level, it's worth presenting the final considerations contained in the OECD Virtual Currency Taxing Report, which presents the following proposals. First one, providing clear guidance and legislative frameworks for the tax treatment of crypto assets, because we see a lot of changes with crypto assets operations day by day. This issue is frequently discussed at OECD forums on the digital economy, and we need to support improved compliance. It's proved that it's easy to be in compliance with tax rules when we simplify them. It's also necessary to align the tax treatment of virtual currencies with other policy objectives, especially environmental ones, and designing appropriate guidance. Finally, they are proposals aimed at those who must institute regulatory standards, and in any case, it's necessary extensive debate with the market that effectively works and moves operations with crypto assets. In Brazil, we are dealing with a tax reform, and in my opinion, as mentioned by Orlando, this is our biggest issue at the moment. However, considering that the business with crypto assets grow day by day, I believe that sooner a bill of law will be approved to bring guidelines for the provision of virtual asset service, for example, and regulates the operation of companies. And we should follow the bills and the discussions. I hope I have clarified some of the questions that you may have had, and thank you all for your attention.
Thank you so much, Daniella, for the wonderful presentation. Quite interesting. I have already some questions to you, but I think we go first with the next panel, and then we go through all the Q&A. But I have to say that I have a couple of questions for you right now. So thank you very much. Quite complex topic and very relevant for the next following years. So Adler, if you may, please join us and to move towards your presentation, please.
Great, thanks, Orlando. First of all, thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you. Good morning and good evening for the Brazilians that are here. I'm a tax partner based out of Curitiba, Brazil, in the south of Brazil. And I'll be sharing with you a little bit about taxation and ESG. And I will say that is a topic that's becoming each day by day more important, more relevant for the companies, not only for Brazilian companies, but also for every company working in this more complex environment that we are living in. I will share a small presentation. Let me see if it works well. Just Orlando, are you seeing my presentation? ESG and tax? Yes. Oh, great. All right. So let me just, yeah. Okay. So basically, the key message here is that companies have been consistently investing in ESG, right? In sustainability as a core pillar of their strategy. However, one key metric that has remained, I would say, absent of the conversation about ESG is our taxes. So what we consider here is that taxes, a company approach to taxation should not be viewed solely as a matter of compliance. Usually we think on taxes only in compliance, but we believe that taxes are becoming a powerful indicator of how a company sees its role in society and how it is committed to its purpose. So tax has a very important role to play when we talk about ESG. And here we bring just a very quick definition about taxation and what I will say the three pillars of ESG, right? So tax does not fit only in the governance aspect, but also in the S of social, in the E of environmental. So when we talk about, for example, E, environmental, taxes have a very important role when we're talking about green taxes, that are those taxes that will be levied in consumption in order, for example, to reduce the fossil fuel consumption. Green incentives are those incentives that will be able to the companies or will be able to use in order, for example, to invest in green energy or change its energy. Another important aspect are from the social aspect. Taxes can play a very important role in this social aspect of ESG. For example, granting tax and social security benefits in order to tackle, for example, inequality issues or even social issues that we are living. One important discussion that we're seeing also is about the tax destination and also the contribution of the companies to the society. As we mentioned, tax has a very important role in this matter. So the press, stakeholders, clients, they are asking and challenging the companies to understand and to be more transparent on their tax contribution and on their effective tax rate. And above that, also discussions about ethics, about tax ethics, and the importance of a company to be responsible from a tax perspective. When we look at the governance aspect, we will also can have, for example, discussions about the tax strategy of a company, the narrative that a company has regarding tax issues, tax opportunities, and one important report that some companies are beginning to elaborate is a tax transparency report, where a company will disclose its tax strategy, its relationship with tax authorities. It will open information of how much the company is paying about taxes and other important aspects. Let me just try to go forward with the presentation, but I'm not able. Let's see if. Oh, here we go. I would like to share with you, we recently launched a study about tax and ESG in Brazil. It was a survey done only with Brazilian companies, also multinational, but companies located in Brazil. And there were several questions, but I brought here some, I would say, some highlights of this survey and that I would like to share with you. For example, decarbonization commitments. As we know, many companies are doing their commitments to decarbonize their operations. So to migrate from a fossil economy to a green economy, we will need companies and countries to have those commitments of decarbonization. And 45% of the participating companies, they have a decarbonization commitment, partial or net zero. And they aim to achieve it, 51% aim to achieve it by 2030. But our survey shows that this pace is still, we will say, low. But what we see is that the tax incentives will have a very important role in order to boost actions, in order to increase the pace of this decarbonization commitments, right? So one important aspect is that 80% of the participants of that survey consider tax incentives to be relevant or very relevant for the implementation of ESG practices in their segment. So companies will need, from a tax policy perspective, the support of the government, of policies, in order to be able to invest in this transition and to be very well equipped and and to be faster in this transition. One important aspect here is that if the companies were provided with tax incentives, companies report that they will mainly invest in, first, 77% of those companies answered that they will invest in the preservation of the environment, 58% in combating social vulnerability. And in Brazil, this is a very important topic, right? The social inequality and social vulnerability. And 54% will or would invest in inclusion and diversity. So another important conclusion that we had in that study is that more than 2/3 of the respondents, they believe or they agree in the imposition of what is considered a green tax, right? So those taxes levied on products or services to promote the preservation of the environment. A typical green tax is the carbon tax that levies on fossil fuels in order to stimulate, for example, clean energy, electric energy, or ethanol energy. Another important aspect is that as not only from a tax perspective, but for also from a business perspective, the public and the stakeholders, they want more information. And a very important aspect that we saw in that survey is that 94% of the participants take image and reputational risk into account in their company's tax management when considering procedures and structures that may lower the tax burden. So a very important topic that's being discussed and has to be in the mind of every tax manager or CFO or I would say even in the board of directors is the risk management about tax. It's important to do a tax planning. It's important to have a efficient tax structure, but always keeping in mind that it can be questioned, it can be challenged. So it makes sense. It has a business purpose. The main purpose must not be only pay lower taxes or zero taxes. We have a very high discussion or a very hot topic on that is the big techs that, for example, have operations in a tax haven or very few operations in a tax haven, but has a very large operation in other countries, but has a very low effective tax rate. And basically 54% of the stakeholders, they are demanding more transparency in the tax practice. So we see that as a trend in that survey. And we believe that this trend will become even more important as each day is passing. And here, as my last slides, I bring here a suggestion of a tax transparency journey. We see that this tax transparency, many Brazilian companies are starting to build their tax transparency journey. As mentioned before by Orlando, by Daniella, the Brazilian companies, we live here in a very complex tax system where there is a lack of trust between tax authorities and taxpayers, but the society at large and the stakeholders at large, they are demanding more tax transparency. And we see that as a trend in many companies and many Brazilian companies doing business in Brazil or doing business overseas. All right, basically those are the main messages. And I I'm here also to reply any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for the lecture, Adler. Also, it's quite a hot topic, and there's much room for discussion. And we have already received several questions for discussion with you guys. So I would like to kick off the discussion first with a question to Daniella. There are so many interesting topics on the new technologies, and something that may be interesting to the audience would be to share some specific concrete cases that you've been working in with these new technologies and smart contracts. So what kind of examples could you share of specific concrete cases under discussion right now?
Great. Thank you for your question. Yes, I want to share with you that in 2020, our office provided legal support to structure the first music NFT marketplace, music NFT platform here in Brazil. And well, it's something absolutely new. And as you know, here in Brazil, to open an entity, a company, we have to point the economic activity. Here we call this the KINAI, right? It's a code. And then you say, this entity will work with these activities. But we don't have a code for an NFT platform. So consider that we don't have specific rules for that. We build legal structure based on technological service. Then they pay their taxes as a service. They render service. They do the intermediation between the artists and the collectors and the users, but it's everything new in this area. And another work that is really interesting, and it was recently, I was working with an audiovisual co-production, international co-production with 4 co-producers from different countries and some investors from Brazil. And for who don't know about the taxation here in Brazil, when we have to do remittances abroad, sometimes you have to pay a lot of tax, okay? And it's a kind of investment because they are doing an investment in an audiovisual movie, in an intangible good, intangible property. But in fact, the money, when the Brazilian investors send the money abroad, there is a taxation. So I was thinking about structure this operation using a smart contract. Then the investor here in Brazil could pay for a token, like royalty sharing token, and then they will receive the royalty income by cryptocurrencies, by this smart contract. It's really, it's new. There is no regulation for that. There is the risk of the use of cryptocurrencies because of the market, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Anyway, it's really interesting to think about this structure and to think about think out the box in this case, because our legislation is really complex to deal with this kind of businesses.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting because it's such an exploration, right? I mean, it's everything new, brave new world, and you have to create many things among the discussions. I think one of the things that I was willing to ask you also is for the foreigners that they, for instance, want to do business with someone in Brazil regarding this intangible in Brazil, as you explained, in Brazil seen as intangible assets or goods. Should are they required to have any kind of registration in Brazil, or any kind of concerns that they should be registered in Brazil somehow, or there's no barrier to do business with a local artist or a local developer of any kind of digital content?
This depends on the structure of the investment. For example, a foreigner can invest here in Brazil using only agreement for that, okay? But the person who will receive the investment here in Brazil, if it is only agreement, a contract, probably this person or entity will have to pay tax on this revenue. So sometimes it's better when the foreign investors does the investment directly, using, in this case, investing the money as equity. Mm-hmm. In this case, they need to open. They have to have a number, CNPJ. It's like the. It's a number, taxpayer. Yes, exactly. And then the foreign investor do the investment by this way, by equity, acquisition of equity.
Got it. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I have one more for you, but I'd like to now ask also to Adler a couple of questions as well. So Adler, we were discussing before the presentation, and I was wondering how companies in Brazil, especially in regards of capital markets, they are already concerned about ESG and taxes, specifically on ESG, or this is still not happening? How the capital markets are dealing with tax ESG in Brazil?
Thanks, Orlando. I would say a very good question. Yes, still in Brazil, I would say that is still an incipient topic, right? The society, taxpayers, companies, they're still understanding how tax can fit in this ESG agenda. But what we see is a trend and many early adopters here. So I would say a few listed companies in Brazil, they already have, for example, their tax transparency report, where they and I can say here companies like Vale, the mining Brazilian, a Brazilian mining company, Petrobras, a Brazilian oil company. Recently, an energy company also have or issue its tax transparency report. So what we are seeing is that this importance of tax is increasing, and also from a tax incentive perspective and a tax policy perspective. There are several Brazilian states that grant tax incentives to attract clean energy, for example, investments in clean energy in order to build wind power facilities, for example. So we see it as a trend for sure, Orlando.
Wonderful. And I was talking with a client the other day, and one of the things we are setting up them in Brazil, and one thing that they deal with green energy, actually specifically with green fertilizers, but they were pleading or discussing the possibilities of request lower effective rates due to that. So the thing that they are trying to, the case they are trying to build, and I was wondering if this is something that is usual in other jurisdictions or not, or in Brazil, if there's any considerations on that. But if there is a possibility of have lower taxation to green products in comparison to, for instance, fossil fuels or fossil fuel derived from.
Yes, yeah, sure. That's there's a huge discussion behind that in order if for example, states, countries, they should grant incentives in order to enable companies and also consumers to shift their consumption but while I would say the discussion here also and the best practice says that companies or a country should grant those tax incentives in a specific in a limit time, right? Not perpetual benefits. So, for example, Brazil, they have a few examples of tax incentives, but we see other countries as front runners. For example, Northern Europe has a lot of tax incentives. China is heavily investing in clean energy. The US recently has a new bill granting, for example, tax reduction in the energy bill for the final consumer that shifts from a fossil fuel energy to solar energy. So we're seeing that many countries granting those incentives. I would say that Brazil is still timid, but with a tendency here to increase those incentives.
Excellent. And I would like to ask both of you, actually, this one, it's a broader question, but it's something that probably will be important for the following months. Is Brazil is rapidly moving towards entering into OCDE. The government is quite engaged on that, and I was wondering how do you think that this will impact on those topics that we are discussing? So is a Brazilian entrance on OCDE impact on the taxation of new technologies and the ESG matters? Is this something that may speed up those discussions in Brazil?
Yes, can I answer first? Okay. Sure. Well, certainly, if Brazil follows the agenda and approved not a tax reform, but the new rules about transfer pricing, probably they will treat the intellectual property concept regarding the transfer pricing rules, but this concept probably will be used in legislation that treats transactions with NFTs and crypto actives, because it's there is a lack in our there is a lack of concept in our regulation, especially in transfer pricing rules. But probably this will affect how Brazil will deal with NFTs operations. I think that it is the impact. But I don't know. It's really, we have to follow the bills and the discussions, and there are a lot of work to do here.
Daniela, I agree with you. I believe that sooner or later Brazil will join OECD. That's something that will happen, and we expect that in order to be more competitive from a business perspective. When we look at tax transparency, OECD has good practice regarding tax transparency. So we expect Brazil to be more transparent from a tax perspective. So in order to join OECD and considering all the BEPS discussion, Brazil will necessarily will have to follow those guidelines. So from a tax ESG perspective, it will be good. Brazil will be more transparent, not only with the relationship with the tax authorities, because again, Brazil, and as Orlando mentioned in the beginning, Brazil is very digitalized. The tax authorities, the Brazilian IRS has, I would say, full access to the operations, the invoices, electronic invoices. But when we look at companies to outside, to the consumer, to the clients, and to stakeholders, Brazilian companies lack a lot of transparency. So joining OECD, we expect that this will increase its transparency.
Also, I was very interested on the survey that you shared information, especially because there are some insights there that I think that are quite valuable. Specifically, I was very impressed about the concern of the stakeholders regarding the reputational risks. So I think that probably the tax managers and tax the teams of the companies, they need to evaluate not only savings but also how this could impact on their companies. And we do have famous or infamous cases in several countries regarding tax plannings that now looking back they are considered aggressive, but they harm reputationally some companies. So definitely this is the kind of thing that it should be taken into account when we are talking about OCDE. One of the things that I also would appreciate your insights are as how we compare Brazil, in your point of view, with other jurisdictions. For instance, I think that in terms of tax burden, Brazil is quite high, especially on consumption. So we're talking about ICMS, PS and COFINS, taxes on transactions. In income, not that much, but in terms of ancillary obligation, we definitely are the most burdensome jurisdiction. In terms of digitalization, we are in the top tier among the jurisdictions. And in terms of the topics that you talked with us today, how do you see in comparison to other jurisdictions, especially obviously, or I assume that we will not be ahead of Europe or US in some topics, but especially in comparison with Latin as well, Latin American countries, because I'm under the impression that in comparison with the region, we are ahead. But I would like to ask for you guys your insights on this, on how to situate Brazil along the jurisdictions.
This is difficult. Difficult one. Well, I think that Brazil has a challenge we have to do our homework and do our tax reform, because it's really difficult to work in a global world with a lot of global global businesses and structures having this taxation that we have here. Of course, and well, I am talking as someone who works with, especially with entertainment and culture market, okay? So for example, we have clients that they plan to be global. For example, gamers, developers. And it's really, really difficult to think with tax efficiency if we have to receive revenues here in Brazil. For example, a gamer developer, they receive royalties because of their licenses. If the revenues come from the USA, there is income withholding tax of 30%. And most of the platforms are established abroad in the US or in Europe. And then the entity here in Brazil receives these royalties and have to pay tax here. Brazil has few agreements with other countries. So to be honest, I think we have a big challenge. We have to think that we are in a new world that demands a new system of taxation. I think it's that.
Yeah, Daniela, completely agree with you. As you mentioned, Brazil doesn't have a large network of double tax treaties. I would say that a few years from now, Brazil is increasing those double tax treaties, but still we have a long way to go. Brazil is still considered a closed country because as you may know, Brazil is a continental country. So usually companies and even the government, they look only or business in Brazil, right? We still lack to look outside of Brazil. I would say a huge difference between Brazil and Korea, right? So I think that the legislation a little bit by little bit is changing. We haven't had a big tax reform, but we have had some minor changes in the legislation. Example, excise tax, it's being reduced and probably will be zero. And that's a tax that doesn't make sense when we look that we have other taxes, VAT. So I would say that Brazil, in comparison to other Latin countries, again, has a higher burden on consumption, but a lower burden on income tax. So we see a trend on reducing the burden of VAT and consumption taxes and increasing the burden on income tax. And again, Brazil joining OECD will modernize the legislation. And as mentioned before, for example, transfer pricing rules, we have only in Brazil a very specific rules. Joining OECD, we will have to follow global rules, global standards.
Perfect. So now we are almost at the end. I would like to make a final question to you guys, but before that, I'd like to thank you once again, Daniella and Adler, for the presentation, the wonderful knowledge that you shared with us. And just to wrap up, and the last one should be the toughest one, but I think is worth it. I would like to ask you guys a bit of a foretell exercise. How do you foresee the environment in terms of the election, this election year. So how this may impact or not the topics that we are discussing. I know that no one of us can know for certain what will happen, but I would love to hear your last thoughts on that before giving back to Sue and the organization. Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity and for your knowledge today. And I'll leave you to it with this final question on how do you think that the election may or may not affect the topics that we are discussing.
Please, Adler, go first.
The tough question for me first,
yes.
right? Yeah,
Please.
yeah, Orlando. As we know, Brazil is we will have elections in a few days, and a very dispute election. So, but what we see from a tax perspective, and also from a tax transparency, tax ESG perspective, as I mentioned, there is a very the trend and the pressure also from stakeholders and from is to increase tax transparency, is to increase tax incentives, green tax incentives. So in that's a personal opinion, right? In my personal opinion, it doesn't matter the president, the next president of Brazil. We will have to tackle some issues from a tax perspective. We will have to join OECD in a few years. So I believe that we have.
Oh, we lost your sound, Adler.
Oops, sorry. From my economic perspective, I think we are a more mature country. So my expectations is that no matter which president sits on that chair, we will continue evolving and tackling some issues that we have here.
Well, I think it's really difficult to answer this question. Well, I hope the next government have the maturity to deal with our tax reform. I think it's really our biggest issue at the moment. In the past, I thought that we would do this reform during this government. Unfortunately, we didn't make this reform. And for the next government, it's that. I hope we can deal with tax reform and we can join the OECD. I think it's really important to put Brazil in another level, thinking in terms of the connection with other countries, and we have to simplify our taxation. I really like the system in the USA and the principle of simplicity that they follow. So, well, and to be honest, I hope God bless Brazil in this moment. And it's only that I can say. It's only that. Sorry.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And Sue, let me give it back to you. I hope you all have the opportunity today to learn as much as I had with you guys. So Daniella and Adler, once again, thank you for your presentations, and Sue and the organization, thank you for the event. It's been an honor, and I'm thrilled and expecting for the next panels on the following days. Thank you.
Thank you for the excellent panel, Orlando, and the speakers. One of the major reasons why the entrepreneurs are resistant in opening the business in foreign country is the tax issue. and being surrounded by the experts who can give solid guidelines is one of the key ingredients to build a successful journey in the foreign markets. And I am confident your work will contribute to the development of business relations, Brazil and South Korea. Well, finally, I would like to invite Won-ho Jeon, Assistant Manager of the Korea International Trade Association, who will give us a brief presentation on entrepreneurship ecosystem in South Korea and the role of the Korea International Trade Association. Mr. Jeon?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to represent Korea and our organization on behalf of our organization in front of many people in Brazil. I'm Won-ho Jeon from Korean International Trade Association, a non-governmental organization helping promote trade between countries in Korea. Today, I'll introduce entrepreneurship in Korea, and then I'm gonna speak about our role in the ecosystem. Wait a second, please. Yeah. First entrepreneurship system in South Korea. I want to beginning with the past. The power of Korean conglomerates, so-called 재벌, is still very present today. These are family-run mega corporations such as Hyundai, Samsung, and LG. These three companies alone are ultimately responsible for more than half of the Korean economy. Therefore, many Koreans look to these companies for employment. This is why many young Koreans dream of working for one of these corporations. Therefore, there was no real culture of entrepreneurship in Korea. For a young person with talent, their choices were to become a doctor, a lawyer, a government worker, or work for these major corporations like Samsung. Not until recently has entrepreneurship been a real option for some of top talents in Korea. It seems the culture has changed, as well as more and more young Koreans are looking to get into entrepreneurship. They've seen many successful Korean entrepreneurs build successful startups over the last decade. The number of startups in Korea in 2021 was close to 38,000, with over 670 startup employees. In 1998, the number of startups was around 2,000. Thanks to so many startups in Korea, many Koreans now have an alternative to working for a big conglomerate like Samsung, Hyundai, or LG. The older generation is starting to embrace entrepreneurship a lot more than in the past. Now, young Koreans have the alternative to being an entrepreneur and running their own business. South Korea has 21 unicorns currently, such as Coupang, Kakao, just to name a few. Korea produced 7 new unicorns in 2021, its largest ever number in a year. Newly minted Korean unicorns include virtual asset exchanges Dunamu and Bithumb, real estate brokerage Jikbang, food delivery startup Cully, used goods trading platform Carrot, and content platform Reedy. Korea has experienced the second venture boom, with numbers related to startups and venture investment continuously reaching a record high. Last year was so much remarkable. The total funding amount reached $12.3 billion despite the exchange rate and the pandemic, according to the latest statistics, which almost doubled compared to 2020. You can see the Korean startup ecosystem is very vigorous, active, energetic, to seek new talented startups. Korean government is continuously improving the infrastructure that supports the startup ecosystem. For example, the government has budgeted $4.5 billion in data-related industry for 2020. In the press conference, the former Korean president asserted to actively assist startups to grow into scale-up stage. By making colossal exclusive funds, the government suggests to investing $12 billion for the next 4 years. TIPS is one of the famous startup support program designed to identify and nurture the most promising startups. It appoints and designates successful venture founders as their incubators and accelerators. It then offers seamless services encompassing angel investor networking, incubating, mentoring, and professional support, and matching R&D funds. I've now mentioned some big corporations that have started their startup hubs like Lotte's Accelerator Program, Samsung's C-Lab Space, or Naver, and their Startup Alliance. They encourage their employees to start their business by spin-off and engage in incubating and accelerating. They also offer working space, financial support, and chance to expose startups to a global market. For example, 22 domestic startups out of 74 who won the CES Innovation Award in 2022 are from Samsung's C-Lab. They also founded corporate venture capital, which has been legitimated in 2020. They are actively investing in. The Seoul Startup Hub is a representative example. Founded in 2017, the Seoul Startup Hub is Korea's largest startup incubator. The hub aims to cultivate 450 new companies, and it also served as a control centers for 24 smaller startup centers in Seoul. Currently, there are over 400 startup support facilities and co-working spaces in Korea. Some of big names include WeWork, Fat5, Google Campus Seoul, and Maru 180. I mentioned TIPS earlier, but the K-Startup Challenge also promotes collaboration between domestic and foreign startups. Every year, the program recruits 60 overseas startups to be invited to stay in Korea to participate in the 4-month accelerating program. All companies from the K-Startup Challenge work out of the Pangyo Global Startup Campus. The K-Startup Challenge and the Seoul Global Startup Center are focused on bringing in foreign entrepreneurs to start businesses in South Korea. So this is the second part, our role in the ecosystem. We focus on 3 main pillars to support startups in Korea. First, globalization. Second, scale up. Third, open innovation in Korea. This is the key businesses. The Fortune 500 Connect is focused on linking various stakeholders in the global startup ecosystem. This initiative will be to stimulate the venture environment. We will source Korean tech startups to fit the specified needs of large companies. These companies will include both multinational companies and medium-sized companies and venture capitals also. The aim is to enhance the value chain for all through open innovation. Some of the collaborating partners include Lego, Starbucks, Dalcin, Biostorp, and Porsche, and else. And the second one is InnoBranch. InnoBranch is an encompassing and inclusive platform that supports global open innovation. We provide cross-matching between large corporations and startups from home and abroad. Therefore, large companies, SMEs, and startups in Korea will be able to connect with global larger companies, SMEs, and startups through Innovranch. The platform will provide its users with vast opportunities to link with the most appropriate partners. Also, corporate partners can publish the Open Innovation Challenge through the website, and also they can recruit, filter, and select the startup candidates. The aim is to be the bridge for global companies that are looking to enter the Korean market. In addition, Korean companies are looking to expand outside of Korea by partnering with global companies. We already have an extensive network and partnerships with corporations of all sizes, including large and medium companies, as well as startups in various sectors. For startups, it's important to have technology validation, business track record, and consumer engagement data. We provide startups with POC testbed environment to prove such market potential. The best example is KFAC testbed. KFAC is one of the largest single-floor exhibition and convention space in Seoul, and it is actually owned by Kita. The KFAC testbed project allows startups and larger shopping malls to explore new business opportunities. Furthermore, customers are exposed to the latest tech services for a better shopping experience. Startups will gain access to crucial customer feedbacks, and shopping malls will gain an upper hand by bringing in innovative experiences for their shoppers. This year, we have expanded the testbed environment to encompass the whole KFAC MICE cluster, such as the department store, casino, city airport, and other office buildings. The last one is NextRise. It is the biggest startup fair in Korea. It is held annually since 2019. The fair consists of many seminars, lectures, panel talks, and pitches, and presentations regarding open innovation in Korea. These sessions offered great insights into the global startup ecosystem. From 2020, we decided to hold the event both online and offline. This year, NextRise 2020 was very successful, even with the limitation brought on by COVID. Around 150 multinational companies and venture capitalists tried to seek future collaboration with startups in more than 2,000 meetings. Technically, Ms. Ko helped us to introduce a Brazil venture capital, DXA. So we was able to have successful meetings with them. This year we brought in innovators and startup community builders all together with more than 25,000 audiences from all across the globe to create real business opportunities. NextRise 2023 will take place from June 1 to 2 in KFAC again. We are open to any startups and venture capitalists and corporations. And we are open to all the exploration for the possible future collaborations. So please do not hesitate to contact me if you are interested in the fair. So this was my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. John. So yeah, I've been fortunate to connect. Yeah, I've been fortunate to connect the Brazilian venture capitals to these events in South Korea. So hopefully we're going to have a big Brazilian delegation attending the NextRise 2023. So let's hope for that. So with this, we would like to finish our day 1 of the 10th edition of Brazil-Korea Entrepreneurship Lecture Series. More panels will follow tomorrow, and we will all look forward to seeing you in the coming panels. Thank you again for your attention. My special thanks to the opening remarks, the commentators, as speakers and moderator, as well as the audience that who supported us with the questions. We always learn each other from the questions, presentation, and the comments, right? So have a great day to those who are in South Korea, and good night to those who are in Brazil, and see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.